Hi, I'm David White, and I am the turntable specialist here at HiFiBuys, and I'm going to be putting together a Pro-Ject debut Carbon Evo turntable. It's a walnut one. And we're going to we've got the parts taken out here from the box, and we're going to put them together for you. Hopefully I'll follow the same steps that they have in this wonderful guide that they send along with it, with pictures on how to do this when you get it in your own home. If you buy them here from the store, we usually set them up for you. But in this little bag of goodies, they have your anti-skating weight. This is a 45 RPM adapter and a small Allen wrench, which we won't be using. They have two belts. The flat one is the one you're going to use. It says Pro-Ject on it. The other one is for playing 78s, if you should ever want to do that. You also get your phono cables. In a separate area in the box, your counterbalance weight, your platter, and it's matte. So that's the mat, that's the platter. And in the Evo edition of this, their newest table, which is so popular we can't even keep them in stock, they use a polymer ring on the inside of this metal, this stamped metal platter, to give it some deadening of its resonance. You also get a wall wart AC adapter. And there'll be some different plug types on it. There's one you're going to use for the US, which will look familiar. And you're going to put that on later. So the turntable itself comes wrapped up in this fabric material, which I like because it doesn't leave any film on the base, especially when it's a gloss plinth. I probably should have practiced this. I could have went, voila. So it's a nice little table. It's hard to keep them in stock because they're so popular and it's such a good value at its price point. But on here we've got a walnut finish on a very solid, nice MDF plinth. We have a carbon fiber tone arm. And in the United States, these are imported by Samico. So instead of like in Europe where they have a Ortophone 2M red cartridge, which is a $9,900 cartridge, the Samico puts their own cartridge on here. It's a Rainier, and actually is a great deal because it's a $149 cartridge versus a $99 cartridge. So you're getting an upgrade just by the fact that Samico's distributing these in the United States and putting their own cartridge on them. I usually like to put the belt on first, and I'm probably not following the steps in their little guide with all the nice pictures, but there's a Pro-Ject name on it. I like to get that Pro-Ject name on the outside of the belt rather than the inside. And you just wrap it around the pulley and bring it around the sub platter. And it's nice to give it a little spin to make sure that it's even all the way around the sub platter. So this is the stylus guard here that we're going to take off. And at this point, when that's unprotected, you want to be really careful because your needle's out in the open. This cartridge tracks at 2 grams. It's actually 1.8 to 2.2 grams. The sweet spot is 2, and that's their recommended tracking force. And when we say a cartridge tracks at 2 grams, it means we're going to put enough vertical tracking force, VTF, on this stylus for it to be entering the groove with 2 grams of tracking pressure. And that's accomplished by this counterbalance weight. So the counterbalance weight has a scale on it, and we'll talk about that later. First, we're just going to get it on just to get out of the way. And then we're going to put the platter on. So you just drop the hole over the spindle. And for right now, we're not going to put the mat on. And I'm going to sit down because I need to get closer to this. So we're going to use a digital scale that will be able to measure the vertical tracking force on this cartridge once we get the counterbalance weight set up. But in the meantime, we're going to do it how you would do it if you didn't have a scale. So we're going to do what's called kind of floating the arm. And that will be to essentially get it in balance with no tracking force applied to it. So it's kind of zero tracking force. So we put this weight on, and we adjust it, and you'll see this arm wants to pop up out of my fingers here. We adjust it until there's no tracking force on it, and it literally floats. So this is kind of like having two kids on a teeter-totter, both of equal weight, and they're just sitting there in the air, and not one of them's tipping the other one down. We're going to try to tip this end of it down and apply 2 grams of tracking force, which is what this cartridge recommends. And if you ever get a cartridge and you don't know what its tracking force is, you can find it on the internet anywhere, even old cartridges they made back in the 60s. So now we've got this 0, and we've got that scale on the counterbalance weight. When I was turning it to get it to have the right amount of weight to float, I was turning it using the back of this weight. And that moves the weight and the scale at the same time. Once I get it to 0, my counterbalance scale might be something like 0.5 or 5. What you do to get it back to 0 is you hold on to the back of the weight and you turn this little scale back to 0. Once we've done that, then we hold on to the weight and we turn the entire mechanism around to the marker that says 20. And I believe the 20 is micronewtons, and 20 micronewtons is 2 grams. So any of these numbers on here, if your cartridge were to track at 1.5 grams, you'd turn it to 15. Since this one tracks at 2 grams, we turn it to 20. If it tracked at 2.5 grams, you'd turn it to 25. Now that should get us in the range of the cartridge, which is 1.8 to 2.2 grams. Hopefully it gets us real close to the sweet spot, the middle of 2.0 grams. But we haven't used a digital scale yet, and we should be able to be confident that we're in that range even if we didn't have one. So we're going to check it out on the digital scale real quick, and it is about 2.19. So we are within the range. I didn't get it dead on with this. So if I back it off a little bit and then reset the dial to 2 to show that I back it off at 2, we should be good to go. And there we are, we're at 2.01. So we're 1/100th of a gram off, and that's good. I like to do that with a digital scale without the mat on, because the lip of this scale is a little high with the mat on, and with the mat off, it's just about right for the measurement. And this is something that is always fun to do, but there's an anti-skating weight, and it may take me a couple of tries to get this on. Let's set it back there for now and talk about anti-skate. So a turntable arm tends to want to, during play, skate inward, and the inner groove gets a little bit more of the diamond rubbing up against it than the outer groove. So most turntables have an anti-skating device of some kind. In this case, they use a string and a weight. Other companies use opposing magnets, but it's a force that we apply that then pulls the arm back in this direction and keeps it from playing against the inner groove too much, and balances it in the groove so that it plays evenly against the inner and the outer groove. These guys use a weight and a string. Sometimes it's a little tricky, especially when your hands are kind of a little dry and you can't get a hold of the little tiny thread, which mine are today. And there's a little tiny loop on the end of it. So there's a little peg sticking out of the back of the arm, and it has 3 notches in it. They recommend for this cartridge to put it in the center notch. So you take that little loop and put it in the center notch. I keep my finger there to hold it in place while I pick up the weight and then drop it into this little hanger here. And I let go with my finger. And now we've got our anti-skating device set to the inner notch, running through the hanger. And as we bring the arm in, we see that it's being raised up, staying attached to that little rod, and it's working correctly. So now you can put your mat back on, and you're pretty much ready to play from the setup standpoint. You just need to plug in your RCA cables, or your phono cables, whatever you want to call them. One end goes into the end of the turntable down here under the plinth. This is the walnut part. And we'll have a pair of female RCA plugs. The red one goes into the one with the red side. The clear one goes into this side, or the white one goes to that side. And then we attach the ground wire to that little lug there. On the other end of your phono preamp, or your amplifier with a phono stage, we do the same thing. Red is right, white is left, and a ground wire. And we take the AC adapter, find the one that looks like what we use here in the United States with those 2 prongs, put it in, and now your AC adapter is ready to go. And it has 2 holes in the back that fit right onto these 2 hinges. And there you go. All manual turntable. It has a rocker switch under the left corner here, and it's a 3-position rocker switch. If you move it to the left, it will be 33 RPM. In the middle, it will be off. If you move it to the right, it will be 45 RPM. So it has speed control without having to change the belt and move it to a different pulley. And then all it has once it starts spinning is your hand going to drop it over here into the lead-in groove and use the cueing mechanism to enter the lead-in groove of the record and reverse the process at the end. So this doesn't do anything fancy for you. It's all manual to keep it simple, keep it high quality. Thank you guys for watching the video. This is David at HiFi Buys, and we'll see you again soon.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the videos. We put a lot of effort and work into them, and shall we say it's been something that obviously through all these times that we've had to do and actually wanted to do anyway. So we're excited about it, but we need your help. We'd like you to subscribe and like. You'll see it on your screen there, so we'd appreciate it very much if you do so. Not only does it keep you in touch with what's going on with us, it helps us with our Google search engines and those kind of things as well, which helps keep more people in our door so that we can do a better job for you.